Now I'm going to begin construction of the flowering room. First, I'm going to need to bring in some electricity. While I'm at it, I'm going to put up this thermometer right here, because temperature is so important. I always have to know what's going on. Anything above 95 degrees is deadly. The first thing I want to do is put up my 400 watt high pressure sodium lights. Before I do that, I need to put up some hooks. Now all I need to do is hang up this hood and ballast. Now that my hood and my ballast are in place, I'm going to take this 430 watt high pressure sodium with blue spectrum, and I'm going to make sure that there's no fingerprint oil on the bulb. If there is, it'll burn the bulb out immediately, explode. Ugly. I'm going to come right up here and screw it in. Now all I have to do is plug in my 400 watter to this timer that I've set for 12 hours a day. I plug this bad boy into the wall. Let's give her some juice. Takes a minute to warm up. Because my flowering room is enclosed, I really need to focus on air movement. With the buds in here that I'm gonna have, they can mold or fungus up in a matter of days if I don't have a lot of free moving air. So along with this oscillating fan, I also use a squirrel cage fan. Squirrel cages are great at pulling air. So what I do is hang this in the middle of my room, and I attach this 4-inch dryer hose to the end of it. And then I attach the end of my dryer hose to a vent leading outside. I hang it with some bungees, and I've already placed some screws above me. It hangs that easy. I need to plug it in. I set up the table right up underneath the light. I've constructed a drip irrigation hydroponic system here in my vegetative grow room. In contrast to the ebb and flow hydroponic system I want to build for my flowering room. Here's the difference between the two. Over here in my vegetative room, I grow using these 4-inch cubes. Every cube has a dripper. 3 times a day the pump turns on and the plants get fed. In contrast to the ebb and flow system, which is a planter that is filled with water 3 times a day, the root bowl is inside these little orchid potting pellets, and the water is drained right back here into the reservoir. Now I'm going to put together my ebb and flow hydroponic system for my flowering room. I've got all the parts I need to put this thing and make it in tip-top working order. I have 2 black vinyl hoses, just like I used for the other one. 5/8 outer diameter and a 1/2 inch inner diameter. And they're about 3 feet long. I have a pump that'll fit onto the black tubing, timer, aquarium silicone, 3 1-inch nozzles, some screen, small zip ties, and a 5-inch piece of 3/4 outer diameter and 5/8 inner diameter hose, which I'm going to put into the nozzle like that. And when my planter reaches a certain level, it's going to drain back to the reservoir right here. I have my planter. I've cut 2 1-inch holes for 2 nozzles. And I've also cut out 2 holes in my table so the nozzles will fit right in there, no problem. Clean potting rock pellets. And a 20-gallon plastic tub. I'm going to drill one. I'm going to drill one 1-inch hole. I'm going to clean that off. And this is going to be my return line for my overfill line for my planter. And then the other one's going to hook up to my pump, and it's going to pump it up. So now I'm just going to put her together. I'm loading the corners up with aquarium silicone. And I'm screwing in my 1-inch little nozzle. I tighten the nut, and tight's good enough. Silicone around the edges. Silicone around the edges of the inside. I drilled the hole at the bottom of the reservoir so that gravity will push water back down into this tank when it hits a certain level in the planter. What I'm doing here is screwing in my 1-inch nozzles into my planter box. One hole is going to be my exit hole for water, and one hole is going to be my entrance hole for water. Just finger tight. Align it with the holes that I put in the table. Now all I have to do is let the silicone dry and come back and connect all the hoses. Now that the silicone's dry on the 3 holes that I've drilled and the 3 nozzles that I've put in, 2 of the nozzles here in the planter and 1 of the nozzles here on my reservoir. This nozzle's going to be an exit for the water, so I'm going to connect one of my vinyl hoses here, take a zip tie, tighten it up right on the nozzle. Now with the other end, put the reservoir right back here for safekeeping. And I'm going to put the other end into one of the nozzles here on the planter box. Now with the other hose, I'm going to attach one end to this pump and I'm going to place it into the reservoir tank. Then with the end of this hose, I'm going to hook it up to the planter box, and it's going to be the water entrance. That's where water is going to get pumped into. I'm going to use this 5-inch piece of 3/4 outer diameter hose, and I'm going to put it in the end of the nozzle. At the top of this, I'm going to cut myself a piece of screen, and I'm going to zip tie it around so none of these little rocks will get caught in the hose. When the water level reaches this level, it's going to automatically drain back to the reservoir tank. Now on this hole over here, I'm going to place a little piece of screen down so the rocks don't get caught up in there. And like I said, that's where the water is going to get pumped in. With all the hoses attached, I zip tie them down so I don't get any leaks. This pump pumps the water in this tank up into this planter through this hole right here. The planter fills up with water. When it gets to this level, it goes in this hose all the way down and returns back into the tank. When the pump shuts off, this, which is the entrance hose, also acts as an exit hose. So all the water is drained from the planter. The roots need oxygen to breathe. All that's left is to plug the pump into the timer that's been set for 3 times a day and plug the timer into the wall. Well, all right, my flowering room is almost done. I've got my oscillating fan and my squirrel cage fan. I have plenty of air movement. I have a 400-watt high-pressure sodium light that's going to be perfect for flowering big buds. And I have a hydroponic system that waters my plants really efficiently. All I need now to make this room perfect is CO2. I'm happy again. I'm happy this time because it's really easy to set up a CO2 tank. After locating myself one of these adapter pressurizer air nozzle things and picking up one of these CO2 tanks, I can easily set up this air hose around where my plants are going to grow. Now I'm going to poke holes in the little black plastic tube. This way, when the CO2 is turned on, it goes right to the plants. Now I can plug this unit into this timer I have the timer programmed for 3 times a day. It turns on for about an hour and it fills this room with CO2. I also turn the fans off for that hour so the plants can get really saturated with the juice. Once I plug this into the wall and it's turned on, the CO2 comes through this hose, loops around the plants, and oozes out of these little holes. This is a really good setup. It's a really good system. If I didn't have the money for this, well, I would just use bubbly water and a sprayer. I can spray this on the plants and they'll get CO2 all day long. Actually, I do both. I'm done. I've finished my vegetative grow room, imitating the long days of summer, and I've finished my flowering room, which imitates fall and winter time. I'm growing.